Okay, welcome in. What's going on, guys? Garden Report. It's late. It's my twin's birthday. You guys are
Yeah.
you guys are all hammered. Um,
I had one beer, John. Just
one,
one.
not you, the viewers, stumbling home after your night of amateur hour drinking. Here to at least at least celebrate a win with us, which is nice. What have we learned, Bobby? The Celtics can beat Portland.
Yeah.
Um, right?
Hopefully they see Portland in
If
the
you see
NBA
Portland every
Finals.
game the rest of the way, the Celtics are in good shape. Another just no resistance game, from Portland. It's just,
They stink.
man, dude, it has to feel great to play them. There's nothing down low. There's no
Nurkic. But he's hurt. He's
He's
been
hurt.
hurting.
There's no defensive resistance whatsoever. You can just get where you want to go and do what you want to do, and that's what the Celtics
And
did
their wings
early.
sat out tonight, so it got even easier.
Exactly. So there really wasn't much of a challenge, but again, you're supposed to win it, and that's what they did. And they got it. So we're gonna bring in Sherrod Blakely. He's also here in Portland because he's an insane person.
Yeah, he is.
How's St. Patrick's in Portland?
You've got your luck of the Irish paraphernalia, but there was nothing lucky. There was nothing lucky about this game.
Yeah,
none at all.
So Sherrod, we'll start with you. You were there. I mean, good contributions. You're down Brogdon. You're still down Rob, obviously. There's no Pritchard there as well. But you got good contributions from a lot of people. Bobby will get there. But you got a Cornet game.
Yeah.
You got a Blake game. Not like in terms of him lighting up the box score, but the guy literally has no regard for his physical well-being. He's legitimately just throwing his body all over the court right now, which is honestly good to see. Guy that age and kind of, Jalen talked last game about like leadership and people leading and doing that. Stuff like that goes a long way. He said the leaders have to lead, and we'll get into those comments a little because I want to talk about Tatum, then we're going to talk about Brown as well. But seeing guys doing what they're doing, you have Blake throwing himself all over the court, and then the signature play of the game when the Celtics kind of let Portland leak back into it a little bit is Marcus Smart hitting the deck, coming up with that turnover, getting it out to Brown in transition, boom, ball game, and that was the capper there. So nice to see those kind of winning plays moment and guys sacrificing for it. But what stood out for you tonight, Sherrod?
Well, I just think the fact that they got so many guys that were able to stay in their roles, do the things that got them to the league. Like you pointed out Marcus Smart. I thought he had a really good game because he did what Marcus Smart is supposed to do. He drew charges. He caused deflections. He made a couple of big shots. He didn't try to do more than he should. I think the turnovers still need to get down a little bit because he had 4 turnovers, but I think he drew like 4 charges. He had 4 steals. He had 6 assists, shot efficient from the field, didn't force many shots, if any. This was a good game from him. And I'm not going to say much about Lou Cornet other than, ooh.
There goes John.
Just
down
the word Luke
count.
Cornet. Down goes John. Another one that Luke is dunking on tonight, it looks like. Well, this was a good team effort win. I mean, there are lots of guys that stepped in. Lots of different guys that stepped up for them tonight.
I took a tumble. Sorry.
I just said the word Luke, and then everything just fell apart. Clearly,
my camera was like, "I'm out." God.
You can't question this Cornet performance.
No one's going to question it, but we don't want to talk about it in the first 4 or 5 minutes. In fact, I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it before I introduce our sponsor.
That was in the contract.
Which we were negligent. Which we want to bring up again. The exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network, FanDuel. It's been, just a little bit over a week since Massachusetts legalized sports betting. And for those of you looking to get in on the action, and oh my God, did one of my friends have the worst beat ever tonight? Ever. I'll tell you about that later. It was his birthday too. And it was.
Please tell me he didn't go all in on Purdue.
It was a $40 five-way parlay that would have won $1,100. And the last, oh my God, this is so bad. It's so bad.
That's how those go, though.
He hit 4 legs. The last leg of it that needed to hit was an over-under of 6.5 goals. He took the under, okay? Took the under in a game that was 4-2. And at the 1959 mark, an empty net goal was scored, costing him a grand. On his birthday, no less. But it's not going to be that bad for you guys if you go to FanDuel.com/Boston. You'll never suffer anything like that, I guarantee. FanDuel.com/Boston. Bet 5, get 200 in bonus bets right out of the gate here from our friends here at FanDuel. So make sure you check out that offer and please go through that URL, FanDuel.com/Boston. That way they know we sent you. Back to the game. Go for it, guys. And we're not doing Luke yet, but we'll get to Luke.
No, this was just a good overall game. Lots of guys stepped in, did their jobs, and that's the thing they need to get back to, doing your job. Stop trying to do more than you're capable or not capable of, but trying to do more than you should be trying to do. Just do what you do.
Yeah.
Me and Al Horford had a long conversation about that this morning, about just, them getting back to being who they are and just being consistent with it and trying to have some semblance of consistency down the stretch at both ends of the floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they needed a game like this. I thought they flowed well offensively. They missed shots, but they stayed aggressive, particularly Brown and Tatum, who I thought missed a bunch of makeable looks in this game, but kept that downhill approach. Tatum drew 18 free throws, which stacks up among his most ever in a game. It's pretty amazing how he's able to buoy his scoring with consistent free throws night in, night out. That was the story of the win in Minnesota too, I thought, for him.
Yeah, he had 16 attempts in Minnesota.
Yeah. He just gets to the line at will at this point. So he did his job. I think he answered the call in terms of his aggressiveness early. Horford set the tone with a couple of threes early. The offense just flowed, and it sort of set them into this up and down game in that first quarter through 18-17 with Portland. Which I think the Celtics are comfortable in. A couple of teams have tried to race them on this road trip, and they're able to keep up and shoot ahead eventually once the other team goes cold. And this is a good defensive game, too. The way they've guarded Lillard, save for the fourth quarter, has been pretty admirable.
And I would give a lot of that credit to Derek White. I thought he did just a really good job for the first, I'd say, 2+ quarters of not giving, Dame the kind of airspace Dame is used to getting.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to stick on Tatum because we alluded to him, aggressive, getting to the free throw line, answering the bell, so to speak. But it's definitely a guy who's come under fire and come under question, just kind of for the slow starts, the comment the other day about I gotta be better, just kind of just not looking as into it. He's looked a little lost lately, and just not himself. So good to have kind of a get right game, even though he's still struggling tremendously from three. But
2 for 11.
It's another bad one. You look at the numbers for the entire month. Certainly over the last 3 games, I think it's 4 for 29 or something over the last 3 games. It's pretty grisly, but we'll get into that. I don't know that that's going to fix itself. I think he's kind of settled into when he shoots this kind of volume and he's going to take as many pull-up threes as he does. He's about a 35% three-point shooter. That might be normal. So people should stop obsessing over those numbers coming up in a.
If they do, he'll be MVP Tatum.
If they do, it's great. Exactly right. But we're not seeing that. Doesn't matter. Point being is, he's been kind of under fire. Even Sherrod on his A-List podcast with Kwani Lewis and the Globe's Gary Washburn. I believe Sherrod might have said, quote unquote, Tatum's got to get his shit together. Was it something along those lines?
It was something along those lines. Yeah. He does.
Yeah.
He does. Because, if he wasn't as good a player as we know he is, then we wouldn't give a damn. We'd just say, well, you know what? He's just coming back to earth because that's just who he is. But he's not. He is a next level talent. I mean, you look at all the metrics that he's been stacking up. He's going to go down as one of the greatest Celtics to ever play the game. You look at all the damn records he set. No one is doing this early in their career. And so when you have that kind of success, there's expectations. And Tatum lately hasn't been meeting them. That simple. He knows this. We don't have to tell him that. But I give him credit for trying to figure out ways to still be impactful, even when his shot isn't falling. And Bobby, as you alluded to, the free throws, I think he's only had maybe one other game this year where he took more free throw attempts than he took tonight. And I don't think he's had a back-to-back stretch all season where he took 34 free throw attempts, which is a lot for anyone. So he's figuring out how to be an impactful player in other ways besides just knocking down shots, because right now he's not doing that. And I love the fact that he was actually looking to score closer to the basket early on. Like his first points of the game came from the free throw line. And then I think he tried to do some work on the elbow, and he's got to utilize his gifts in other ways besides 3-point shots and pull up jumpers.
Yeah, and we know he can defend too. 3 steals in this game, big ones too on Lillard. They've contained him so well, and I thought Tatum played a big role in that as well, alongside White, as you mentioned. So he gave it all to them in this game, aside from the shooting. And this is what he needs to do when he's missing shots, because again, we've talked about many of these 3-point looks he's putting up. Obviously, you want him to go in, and obviously you want him to be great shots, but he's also just trying to bend the defense to some degree by threatening them with the pull-ups. So if that's freeing other guys, and it did tonight, I thought this was a nice balanced offensive showing from the team as a whole. You want him doing other things to make up for those misses, and the steals, the passing, the rebounding, which has been there all year, and definitely the free throw attempts all go into that. This is what they were looking for from him, John. He wasn't setting tones early in games earlier in this road trip.
Right, and that's the thing. It was an effort thing, whether you want to say it or not, an effort, a focus, a tone, an aggression, an urgency, whatever you want to use to describe it. He just looked like he was sleepwalking the last few games. So it's just
early in this game, goes to the free throw lines, second possession, I think.
Yeah.
Gets the cutting layup. Couple possessions later, hits a 3 from Griffin. That's a start from Tatum. You don't need him to go off for 20 in the first quarter, but you need him on the board, active and involved early, and setting a tone with his movement, I think, especially.
Well, because when he's moving, then that frees up other guys, that loosens up that defense, that creates opportunities to not only create more scoring opportunities, but also it puts an added level of stress on the defense, which if you're doing that at the very beginning of the game, it's only going to become more challenging and more difficult for them. And that's what you want.
Yeah. And as we mentioned, effort, Joe Mazzulla did have a comment after the game just in general about the team. I felt like we had that competitive nature again, and talked about the Celtics needed to kind of maintain that edge. Sometimes it's as simple as that. I mean, how many things you're willing to excuse how many things if you think they're trying, right?
That's what it looked like tonight.
Yeah, and so that's what it looked like. It's far from perfect, but it was effort. Getting to the line and working for those points requires effort. Getting to the line 18 friggin' times means he was, and as you said, he's moving without the ball. He was just doing different things, but you could see at both ends there was more engagement, more effort. And we talk about it going top down. It has to be Tatum, and this is what's kind of always driven me nuts with the narrative surrounding this team when they struggle. I feel like everyone's quick to look at, well, Mazzulla, he's overmatched, and Marcus has just been brutal, and this guy this and this guy that. It's like your stars. It's the stars. And Brown said it last game. We got to lead. We got to set the tone. People are going to follow what we do. That's the most important thing. So yeah, again, they're going to get the accolades. They get the trips to the All-Star game. They do whatever they get. They get the big contracts and the endorsements. They also get the responsibility. So I always look at these guys first. Anytime we slice up any sort of blame pie when things are going bad, are the stars doing as much as they can do? You have some situations around the league where it is completely hopeless, and you see it like, okay, this guy needs help. This isn't one of those situations here in Boston. They have help. It's a deep roster, okay? It's not one of those, well, look what I'm surrounded by situations. So I do think they deserve, I think Tatum has deserved whatever criticism he's been getting the last few weeks when he's been kind of up and down.
It absolutely comes with the territory. When you are the clear-cut face of the franchise, the best player, the guy that when folks are game planning, you're at the top of their list every single game. Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was interesting, though, in this game that Matisse Thybulle, I think most people agree is their best defender for Portland. He spent a lot more time on Jalen than Jason, which I thought was interesting. I thought that was very interesting. And again, it could be just Portland just trying to shake things up, or it could be our
Or
teams looking at Jalen
yeah,
as the guy,
as a tougher matchup,
as
right?
a tougher matchup.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much does that weigh into the fact that Tatum has struggled, or is that just them simply seeing something as they're breaking down film that leads them to believe that we need to deal with JB
Yeah.
more so than Tatum?
It's almost like in football. Sometimes the receiver is the one that gets the top corner and the other guy gets double covered. I feel
Right.
like the plan to Tatum is to always kind of blitz him there at the point of attack when he gets it and get him to dribble out further from the basket, and kind of whatever. And you're right. You might, because Jalen attacks so quickly and aggressively and more decisively, you might need the guy who can just stay in front of him a little bit longer. So I can understand that a little bit. But it is interesting from Portland's point of view. They're like, JB's the guy we got to stop. If that's what they're thinking, that's a different thinking than a lot of teams go for. But it also just might be how you go about defending them. You pick your poison, on how you do it.
Yeah. Because Portland's coach, Chauncey Billups, he's familiar with that. I mean, he played for a Pistons team where even though he got a lot of the praise and accolades, it was Richard Hamilton who actually led them in scoring damn near every year. But defenses, they struggled in how to match up with them. And I think defenses are really struggling to figure out how best to attack JB and Tatum, because even though Tatum's scoring more points, JB is a load. He causes problems because he's so aggressive. And the thing about JB, and we've talked about this before, his basement isn't that deep. Like when he's bad, he's not really that bad. And when he's good, he's top 5, top 10 type player. Tatum, I think, has more runway.
There's more variance in Tatum's game,
right?
I think too, where the good and the bad. And again, going back to it, I tweeted this a while back. Caused a little bit of I wouldn't say a stir, but went back and forth with some people on it. Like Tatum's lows are really low, and he might have more lows than a lot of stars, where those games where he completely disappears or is almost a zero offensively. So the variance in his game is a bit higher than Brown, who is consistently kind of the same sort of guy. So, one feels a little bit more dependable, but you look at Tatum, there's just a bunch of games and a bunch of nights where you look at it and you're like, he shot less than 35% from the floor tonight. He just can't find it right now,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of that are the games where he doesn't do what he did tonight, which is try to get his way to the basket. You have plenty of games this year where the three's not falling, but you look at it and he had 12, 14 free throw attempts, which meant he was trying to get, to get places, and he did, and that helped his overall scoring and his overall output because he did get to the line. When he's not getting to the line and he has these cold shooting games, man, it's just bad.
It's so important he does that. And we used to complain about that lack of free throw attempts and driving and aggression from him. Now he puts his head down and gets in that lane and consistently gets those calls. And
statistically, the biggest difference, if you look again across the board at most of Tatum's stats, I know the scoring is up, but so are the shot attempts, and so is scoring around the league. The most significant statistical difference between this year and last is the free throws attempts. He's shooting
8
almost
free throw attempts,
2.5 more per game than he was last season. That's the big difference in his game right now. It's a big difference, and you also statistically that's what adds to his true shooting percentage being a little bit higher too. Those more attempts at the line, which overall creates more efficiency for him. So if he's not getting to the line, he's not trying to get to the line, and he's struggling with some of this stuff because again, that variance, the pull-ups, we've talked about the numbers, Bobby. He's legit the worst volume pull-up shooter in the NBA.
And it continues.
The absolute worst, and it continues,
Yeah, I can't understand it. Did you see him grabbing the left wrist again early in this game?
I feel like that's like a tennis racket thing, like you hit a shot out of bounds and you go to the strings. But I don't think it's bothering him in a way that like...
I just don't get the three-point shooting, though. He's a great shooter. And I know he entered this league with some inconsistency and some mechanical stuff that made people question him being a great player in this league, that three-point shot. But you look at his output throughout his career, he's been great with that shot. And for some reason this year, especially on the pull-ups, as you mentioned, John, it's just not there. And I can understand a lot of stuff that's going on with this team this year, good and bad. this is the one that continues to baffle me. I don't get it. He's been generally inconsistent with that shot throughout his career. So I get the ups and downs, but him settling in this month at like 31% from three on the high volume, it's got to be the quality of the shots, because I don't think it's anything physical. I don't think it's anything with his approach. I think he's just taking tough shots, and that's where I'm explaining kind of how Joe looks at it. The shots he's taking, I wish they'd get him the easier looks again that we saw earlier
this
in the
comment
year.
kind of says it here. What if Tatum's listening to Joe too much? One, this lets Tatum off the hook a little bit, but two, we've talked about this being a thing where you do wonder whether or not the players want to do what Joe wants them to do by jacking the amount of threes that they do or not. I can't really tell. I know Jalen seems to be not sure. I'm not sure with Tatum.
Well, he's definitely following that instruction for sure. You're seeing him just pull up again and again and again in these spots. A big one against Gobert.
He's doing it. I think he sees every opportunity to shoot it. And again, you're talking a guy who averages 9 for the year. I mean, nine a game for the season. I mean, he's up over 10 for this month. 11, 8, 10, 14, 10, 17 his last few games. I mean, just jacking threes right now. So he's definitely doing it.
I mean, that's his mentality. I mean, just he's going to shoot his way out of this thing, and then I get it, because when you're an elite scorer like that, that's the mentality you have. But he's got to continue to find ways to help this team win games. That has to. He's got to put all that other stuff aside and just keep doing that. Because think about it, they're only 7-5 since the All-Star break. I mean, you were the best team in the NBA for most of the season, and you're a couple games over 500 since the break. You, as the best player on this team, have to do a better job of positioning yourself and this team to win games. It's not like you're getting smoked out there. I mean, damn near every game they've lost, they had a double-digit lead at some point.
Yeah.
So clearly, there's something that you're not doing to finish things off. So get back to doing that. And the points, he's too good to chase points. Points are going to come his way by simply playing this game.
Some of his triple doubles have been in low scoring games for him. So you're right. You want him making a wide impact on a game across the board. And part of that's going to be limiting turnovers too. I felt like when they slipped in this game, it was because they turned the ball over. Not a great night either for Smart in that capacity, though. I thought he was better. But Tatum and Smart essentially took the entire playmaking load with Brogdon out, with Jalen still kind of playing in that post role, playing ahead of the offense more often than not. So Tatum, Smart, both took on larger playmaking roles tonight. I thought they did a pretty good job with it. White played well, but I didn't notice him out there a ton, really, in this one. Nothing
offensively, not much. He wasn't doing a lot.
Yeah, and then Horford just kept getting the ball to guys, and they kept making shots, and he ends up with 10 assists. So I think I saw that was his first.
How friggin' bananas is that? Out of nowhere, it's like Horford had a 10 assist game.
Third quarter, every time he passed it, a guy was making a shot.
The thing about it, though, Al was on pace to have a pretty phenomenal game from the jump. He had like 8 points in like 4 minutes or something ridiculous.
He's been so good. And then he hits that one at the end to cap it off. He does the celebration.
No, he was great. He was great, and limited minutes, which is nice. I'm still guessing he sits tomorrow because that's what he's been doing all season with the back-to-back. But
give Luke Cornett the start.
Yeah, can't wait. I was thinking a little bit. I was thinking.
Move it along.
You didn't have fun watching Cornett tonight.
No,
We're
so
24
much
minutes
fun.
in.
So much fun. We're going to talk about Luke. Yep, we're going to get to Luke in a minute. We're also going to talk about, and I'm not sure whether everyone read the article or not, Jaylen Brown gave an article in the New York Times recently. And Sherrod, did you get a chance to look at it?
I did not.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna read a couple of clips here. I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I don't know how anybody could have read this article and this interview and feel really, really, really good about Jaylen's desire to remain in Boston. I'm not saying he's made up his mind and he's leaving, but there wasn't a lot of warm, fuzzy stuff about Boston in there at all. And so, again, his words, not mine. We'll talk about that a little bit. First, we want to tell you once again about our sponsor here at the Garden Report and at CLNS Media Network, our exclusive wagering partner, which is FanDuel. And as you know, legal sports gambling, legal sports betting came into play last Friday, and we are partnered with America's #1 sports book, which is FanDuel. All customers en masse get in on the action. You get a $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet with a minimum $10 deposit. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston. Once again, FanDuel.com/Boston. Bet all your favorite sports, money line, point spreads, puck lines if you're into hockey, player props, obviously NCAA tournament going on right now. I know there's a lot of people getting really heavy into that and really enjoy that, and that's a fun time for this kind of thing. So again, check it out, download the app. It's super safe, secure, easy to use. I've downloaded it myself. The interface is terrific. It's really easy to follow along. Don't miss your chance. $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/Boston. Make every moment more at America's #1 sportsbook. And again, I do want to tell you, and again, there's that offer on the screen. You must be 21 or older and present in Massachusetts. As I said, a $10 first deposit is required. Bonus is issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire in 14 days. Restrictions do apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem, hope, and help is here. Go to gamblinghelplinema.org. Once again, gamblinghelplinema.org, or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Get in on the action with FanDuel. Guys, we're talking about Jalen. I'll get to that in a little bit because I don't want to go there yet. But let's go around the horn here. Your short players, you're going to get, players who aren't playing as much getting in there now. And you've seen now Grant get into a couple of games after his last DNP-CD. And obviously the Luke Cornett game tonight, which again, we'll talk about Luke. Hey, Sherrod, you're being accosted. Who's that?
All good. It's my guy, Aaron.
So let's talk a little bit about Grant. Is he doing more for you guys?
I think so.
A little bit. He's inching his way back into.
Here's the problem.
He's not there yet, but is he inching in a little bit closer to
he's out there more
usable Grant? I know he's out there, but part of it's been necessity.
Yeah.
Right. And to me, he has to become reliable, consistent. This is what we're going to get from Grant when he gets on the floor. I don't think he's there yet, because I thought in this game, they were, within, 5 seconds of him getting in the game, he had a foul. He got somehow switched out on Lillard, which is a bad matchup for him in every sense of the word. He has to continue to do the little things. I talked in my conversation with Al this morning. We talked about that, about just how, when you're a player in this league and you're struggling, you have to go back to the fundamentals, the things that got you to the league. Grant is never going to be a guy that's going to play above the rim, grab 15, 20 rebounds, shoot, 80% from three-point range. He's a hustler. He's got to be scrappy. He's got to be getting the loose balls. He's got to defend. And when you look at that Minnesota game, that was like the blueprint for how he's got to play. You've got to make some game-altering, significant plays when your number is called. That jump ball was a big one. The rebound, another big one. Those are the kind of things that Grant has to do consistently when he gets on the floor. I didn't think he did as good a job in this game as he did in Minnesota, in part because, this game there was a little more wiggle room to work with. And they had a little bit more control of things. But he's progressing in the right direction. I'll say that.
Yeah, he had little to contribute in the last couple weeks because of the fact that he wasn't playing. And when he was out there, he couldn't get shots off. So to see him get 6 threes off in this one's a big deal. Seeing him hit 2 is encouraging. Seeing him in positive minutes is a good thing. Though when he shoots, it's hard for me, and I know we've questioned the injury at times, John, but it's hard for me to think he's healthy seeing how he's shooting. We know he's a better shooter than this, and he is missing a ton of shots. Falls below 40% for the season tonight. He had held on above that threshold for a little while. So I love him gutting it out. I see him making big plays in crunch time against Minnesota, and that encourages me. The jump ball, I think, was, as I said On Wednesday, a nice bounce back, opposite of the missed free throws in Cleveland. So seeing him reestablish his confidence, seeing him get minutes over a guy like Mike Muscala, I love to see. And seeing him allow them to play more versatile defensively is good for this team, I think. Tonight, again, a good defensive win to me. Like this, they were showing the graphics, Celtics fourth in defense. That's wavered, especially this month. But you see when Grant's out there and they have their defensive personnel out there and Cornette's able to play the drop off the bench and Horford's out there making things happen inside, they can be a great defensive team. Even Smart tonight, I felt, made some big defensive plays. So Grant's part of their defensive identity.
Yeah.
Great to see him out there.
I did want to
16
hit on
minutes.
Smart because Smart's another guy who's been in the tank just in terms of the way he's been playing and the way they've been playing with him, to the point that basically everybody's decided that he should play less than everybody else, less than Brogdon, less than White. Those guys should be closing. But the last couple of games when they've needed it, he's made winning plays. And tonight he had a more well-rounded game start to finish where he was doing kind of more normal Marcus Smart things, distributing the basketball a little bit better, being extremely selective with his shots, more so, a good shooting night, 5 of 8, 3 of 6, 15 points, plus 15. He was a plus 20 something heading into that final stretch, and it whittled down when Portland kind of cut into that lead. But he was outstanding tonight. Like, this was a good Marcus game, and you kind of needed a good 4 steals. This is a good Marcus game. Like that you wanted to see one of these. We haven't seen one of these in a bit.
Yeah, when he goes through those stretches where he's just not very good, you need to play this video of this game to remind him of this is what we need you to be for us to win if you're the Celtics. I loved everything about his game. I mean, other than the turnovers, I thought that, a couple of those were ill-advised plays that he was trying to make, but for the most part, he played within himself. He didn't try to do too much. He tried to do what Marcus Smart does well. And sometimes I think he forgets that. Sometimes I think he gets it in his head that he's got to do more than what Marcus Smart is capable of doing or should be doing. And that's when he gets into trouble. But this was just a really smart game for him.
Yeah, he can't turn the ball over. That's when you'll know he's back. I think he sat at 2.5 turnovers a game before this recent stretch. He's up closer to 3 because of this spurt of them. And I think some of that's decision-making and rhythm. I mean, I know he's hurting. I don't think that plays a ton into turnovers. That's why I hate to see Damon Stoudemire go, because I think he's a guy who got on him about those and really helped reduce them. Now he's been gone for 2 games. So I'll like to see those start to fall back toward 2 again in the coming weeks here. But seeing him get back to himself, seeing him attack the rim like he did tonight, I saw him grimacing at one point into a timeout, and then he comes right back out and hits one of those acrobatic lefty layups. So he's great at playing through whatever he's playing through right now. I know he tweaked it a couple of times in Minnesota, it looked like, in that game, and against Portland in the Boston game as well. So tonight's another night. Brogdon's down, Pritchard's down, JD can't play, so he's got to be out there, and he played through whatever he's going through, and he did a great job with it tonight. So they needed him in this spot, and he really came through, which is great to see. And this is why Joe trusts him. This is why I still think they got to roll with him. Every time he plays poorly, people freak out. The crunch time decision's still real. And again tonight, it slips a little bit there in the fourth quarter. You slow down, Lillard puts his head down, all of a sudden it's a single-digit game. They got to tighten up in that spot. They got to find the right combinations in those spots. Portland didn't really threaten them tonight, but in those spots during this road trip, during this month, they've consistently slipped up a little bit with big leads. It says a lot that they're able to build them, but it's a problem that they can't maintain.
It is legitimately just like anybody who watches NFL, this weird prevent defense approach when, and everybody knows it's the worst thing that you can do. All it does is prevent you from winning. You go into this slow down mode that they always go into.
Killing clock?
It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And you're taking the ball out of people's hands and you're just putting it in your best players' hands, and they're slowing it down and they're waiting and they're setting up. And you stop doing everything that you did that built you that lead in the first place. They have to stop doing that. Again, there was enough pad tonight and they made enough plays in those last few minutes the Smart steal being one of them we talked about earlier, to not have it be an issue. But Smart doesn't come up with that ball. That possession ends up in a Portland 3 instead, and all of a sudden you're talking about a 2-possession game, and things could get really hairy at that point with a couple of minutes left. So you just can't do that.
Yeah, and they got to the line a bunch, and that helped them generate points throughout that Blazers run, which was probably the most impressive thing about the fourth quarter for them tonight. And that steal came in that same sequence there. So, again, you didn't face a great team here tonight, so I don't know how much you can take from it on any front. An injured team at that, though the Celtics came in with injuries too. I'm excited to see Utah. I'm excited to see Sacramento, two teams that I think pose problems for the Celtics with rim protection in Utah's case, and Sacramento's offense just putting pressure on everybody. I mean, they look like a team that can beat anyone round one right now. So those are going to be two more exciting games than this one tonight. You just had to take care of business in this one, getting Brogdon some rest, it looks like. Is that all that was tonight, Sherrod, you think?
It sounds like that's kind of all that went on
good.
with that. So I anticipate he'll be back. And I think part of the thinking is just figuring out ways to split him and Al up so that you're not missing them both on the same night.
Well, Al, for that matter, did say, and again, had a really good game tonight, and those 10 assists, just shocking. But he did say that when asked about it, there's a possibility he plays tomorrow. Now that could be BS because again,
well, he said he put that out there when I talked to him this morning too.
Yeah.
So he's doubling down on that.
So I wonder, because again, you can't say like, nah, because I mean, again, the NBA is watching out for that sort of stuff. You got to make it look good a little bit. It can't be obvious. That's
I
like
think for
calling in ahead with a sick day like 5 days from now to your employer.
I think when I was talking with Al this morning about it, I got the impression that he wanted it to be clear that, when he sits out those back-to-backs, it's not because he's like hurting or sore or anything like that. It's just that there's strategy behind that. It's load management. But that, I think he's getting to the point where maybe they're going to throw him out there back-to-back and just to see what that looks like. I personally think it's a horrible idea.
I don't think it makes sense.
Because what you've done right now has worked so well for so long. There's really no incentive to try to change it up, especially when you're talking about this isn't like Milwaukee in a back-to-back or Philly or a team that you really need to beat in order to, solidify your position. I mean, it's Utah. I mean, if you beat them, great. And if you don't, well, tip your hat to Will Hardy and hope that they get to the playoffs.
The Hardy Bowl.
I wouldn't even hate resting Tatum tomorrow.
I wouldn't either.
Sneak it in. This game, as far as games down the stretch,
especially all that time you got before the Sacramento game, you're right, Bobby.
Yeah.
That'd be a great time to do it.
You got a game on Philadelphia right now.
Yeah, I know, but it's not really a game. You're 0 in the loss column. It's a game, but you both have 22 losses.
I know, but if you're balancing those two things, John, this is about as meaningless as a game.
I get it. I'm
a
rest guy, but you really don't want to fall to 3. You really don't.
No.
You don't, because you've got one round of home court at that point.
But you're going to play Philadelphia in April. That's probably going to be a game that decides that. So once you get there,
it's hard to say
just
how
take
it
care
goes.
of business.
But I think it's hard.
Well, the other thing too is you've got to Tatum to be on board with that. And then the way we talked about this morning, we talked to him about the hip.
Well, he was on the report today, so that kind of might signal something. Yeah.
Yeah, but he made it very clear that when you play 60, 70 some games, everyone has got something that they're dealing with, and he's no different in that regard. And so to me, that's a guy that if I'm not hurt, I'm going to play.
Mm-hmm.
And if he feels that he's just got some just seasonal soreness that he's dealing with, he's going to play. Even if he doesn't play well, he's going to be out there playing.
Yeah.
Well, who knows how much fatigue might play into that shooting too. So sneak it in if you can find it here.
Let's get into Bobby. You can have your Cornet minute. Go ahead.
Well, this was great what he gave them tonight.
It was.
You're talking a Horford to Luke alley-oop. No.
We'll give Bobby the full screen.
Cornet Cam. This is great. I thought he had a nice contest in the corner at one point. The alley-oop, obviously. Contesting shots in the lane. If you can play him, play him.
I just wanted to eat something, Bobby. That's why I went away.
If you can play him in a game, You should play him because the guy's going to do positive things. And you know what I love tonight, Sherrod? He looked to dunk. He looked to finish twice inside. I thought those were two of his weaker areas earlier in the season.
Well,
And to see him come off ice and play this great, awesome. I don't think they play him enough. I really don't.
Stop. I was with you right up until that. See, Bobby, you do that every time.
You always take it too far.
Just one step too far.
He got an and one dunk, throwing it down on Lillard. Come on.
And the thing about it, when you look at the replay of that, if they slow it down, he was absolutely lining Dame up for that. I mean, he knew that was about to go down. And so what people didn't see, the play before that was a Celtics turnover, and it looked like Dame may have given him a little nudge from behind.
When they tried throwing it to him in the lane.
And there was no call there. So maybe that was a little Cornet payback there. But Luke had a great game. I mean, there's no getting around that. He looked like someone who can help you win a game. I thought that, and the other thing too, Bobby, I'm surprised you didn't even say this. It looked like they were running action for Luke, like that little dive
in the pocket. Smart, yeah.
That was a great play. And what people, I don't know if people realize this, but after he did it the first time and got the dunk, they ran almost the same play, and Portland reacted. But the way Portland reacted was they gave Tatum more space on the perimeter to operate because they didn't want Luke to beat them at the basket. And so Tatum just able to do what Tatum does. And so that's Luke's value to me at the absolute peak, the ability to be someone that the defense actually recognizes. Because after he had that one dunk where he just dove to the basket for the dunk, Portland's defense had to acknowledge that he was on the floor. And I think there have been too many games this year where Luke takes himself out of plays.
It took us 40 minutes too, but the offensive rebounding tonight was incredible. Yeah. And he plays a role in that too. Griffin worked hard on the boards. Those two came in and made an impact on the defensive rebounding too in Blake's case. Yeah. When they needed it, because Horford had foul trouble early, and these two come in and they're ultra reliable. They're playing a tough matchup inside against Nurkic, and they're putting in work in there. And I know Cornet's not going to be able to play in a lot of different matchups. The drop is where he needs to be. And you have a game recently, I think it was that Houston game, where he's out there and they're shooting 3 in a row over him in that drop. And the Cornet contest, the percentage is dropping, John. The effectiveness
it's not real.
The effectiveness is decreasing. So there are games you can't play Cornet in. But in the games you can, you should play him and play him often because he does so much good stuff. His screening's on point, his passing's solid, and he's going to keep balls alive around the rim and contest a bunch of shots around the rim.
And don't forget about Sam Hauser. I mean, Sam had 4 offensive rebounds, and Sam, I think, his ability to keep balls alive, I think, is really underrated. Really underrated.
Sam put in work, and you group those two together because they came up through Maine last year. They're two guys they found effectively on the street in the G League in Cornet's case, and as an undrafted guy in Hauser's case, and they've both been steady. Is that a good way to describe it, John, for you all year? Steady for you pretty much all year.
No. Also, I'm not
Cornet and Hauser?
I mean,
steady guys.
Hauser gives you what you want, but not consistently enough. Cornet is sometimes just a necessity based off of whatever personnel that they have. And he has acquitted himself well in some occasions, and others he's been unplayable, and you had to, you give him a short stint and you had to take him off the court. So again, there's limitations. Otherwise, he'd be a different guy and he'd be signing and he wouldn't be on, hanging out on the street and playing in Maine and this and that. There's a reason why. But he has done as much as you could expect Luke Cornet to do for you and been a guy that they can play and get away with playing, and it's worked for them at times. But again, I'm not trying to rain on the parade. Just got to be cautious about lobbying for more minutes and this and that. When you get away with your Cornet minutes and the games where you play him, and then you have a game like this where he plays really well, that's a big, big plus bonus. You don't reward him with more. You're just happy that you got this one because it's got regression to the mean is coming, and the next game's probably not going to be this good. Otherwise, he'd be a big out there making 10, 12, 14 million dollars, and somebody would be, he's not that guy. But he's been good. He's been good at times for the Celtics. Can we agree there? Can we go there?
I like it. Sounds
Okay.
good to me.
All right. So I do want to move to this article, and I'm going to put like 45,000 disclaimers on it regarding Jaylen Brown, only because I know there's going to be a bunch of people who won't read it at all, and will think this is, oh, here we go. There'll be a bunch of people who read it and be like, I don't see that. This isn't what we're talking about. We're talking about you're looking for signs on whether or not somebody is happy here, is comfortable here, wants to continue here. Jaylen Brown's been pretty vague about it throughout. Everyone wants to kind of feel good that, like, he's definitely coming back, right? Sure, he's coming back, and say things along the lines of like, oh, why would he want to leave? He's here with Tatum. They can win, and X, Y, and Z. I think there's more to what Jaylen Brown wants out of life and out of his basketball career than what people are kind of assuming that is. And again, Sherrod, if you did get a chance to read it, I want before I kind of go piece by piece your comments, my general takeaway here is there wasn't anything in this article that made you feel that he was absolutely set and pleased with the overall situation in Boston, both as a city. I didn't really crap on the basketball side of things, but he's not gushing about it either. But certainly his comments about Boston and what it's like being a black athlete in Boston and his experiences and whether he's seeing any improvements makes you think that he's not super set on being here in the long run.
Well, I don't think he is. I think he's open-minded to the process. I think when the time comes, he's going to look at all options. And everything. And to be frank with you, he should. I mean, this is a young man who has an approach to this game that's unique for most players. It's not about one or two things. It's a multitude of things that he's going to weigh and consider. And the thing is, none of us really know what his pecking order or preferences are. If it's winning and being in the best situation to do that, then it's a pretty easy, no-brainer type of situation with what he has. If he's looking for a city that has a more cultural, diverse aspect, blueprint to it, he may look to go out somewhere else. But the one thing we do know that's not going to be a factor is the money. He's going to get the money wherever he goes. And so that's the one thing that you can just kind of take off the plate of considerations. But Jaylen is going to do what is going to make the most sense for him, because when you look at the way he has just gone about his entire career, there's been a clear, undeniable thought process that went into it. I mean, think about it. He was one of the best basketball players in the country coming out of high school, and he goes to Cal. Which at the time it's not a basketball power or mecca or anything like that, but there were certain things that institution had that he gravitated towards that made that the right place for him to be at that time. It's going to be the same thing when he comes time to make a decision on whether he stays in Boston or goes somewhere else.
Yeah, I always like listening to Jaylen on these things, and there's obviously quite a few interesting passages in here about his experience in Boston, and I don't love the fact that for whatever reason, I feel like Jaylen feels the need to be a little more guarded and vague, I think, and sometimes how he describes things, whether that's for fear of criticism or whatever it might be. I thought he kind of didn't dive deep into a ton in here, particularly his future in Boston. The Tatum question, he left kind of up in the air, same as it's always been. And then, of course, I don't think he really dove into specifics about ways he's been kind of boxed out business-wise in the city, which is honestly, if we're looking for signs about discomfort in Boston, the most concerning thing you're looking at.
Well, I mean, look, that's one that jumps out off the page.
I mean, didn't he mention he had trouble getting a house in this too?
A multiple experience as an athlete, as a basketball player, a regular civilian, start a business, trying to do things in the community. There's not a lot of room for people of color, black entrepreneurs to come in and start business. My experience there has not been as fluid as I would have liked. Even as an athlete, you would think that you get a certain amount of influence to be able to have experience, to be able to have some things, doors open easier. But even with me being who I am, trying to start a business, trying to buy a house, trying to do certain things,
I mean, right there,
you're running into adversity. So, I mean, he's telling you right now, he's running into racist roadblocks, trying to do things, even despite the fact that he has tremendous profile stature and a great deal of respect from a huge swath of the Celtics fan base and of the people of Boston. And I think, honestly, like around I mean, more cities than just Boston in terms of who he is, and still is running into issues here. And him saying it's not as good as I would have thought by now. A lot of the things he alluded to is I'm not seeing the change I thought I would see. I'm not seeing the progress, the progression. I'm not seeing. I've been working at it, and I've been working in this community, and I'm still seeing this stuff, and that definitely has to make you wonder, whether or not this is a place that he wants to continue to call home.
Yeah, and but again, the thing that I keep coming back to with all the stuff we're talking about and all the stuff that he's saying is that there's a certain amount of thought that's going to go into his final decision that I don't know if most athletes think about. I think they typically, is it a cool city? Am I getting paid? That's it. Are they a good team? But Jalen, clearly there are other factors that come into play that he's going to weigh. And only Jalen knows how much stock to put in those factors.
Yeah.
But again, some of the issues that you're talking about, John, are issues that whether it's Boston or 15, 20 other NBA cities, he's probably going to run into similar issues.
Sure.
And I think that's part of this whole conversation that I think sometimes doesn't necessarily get the attention that it should. That these are issues that aren't just Boston-centric issues. They have much deeper, much wider tentacles across this country than just one city.
And he talked about that too, just in terms of whether or not things have improved just with some of the attention given to policing. And he said, no, not at all. Like,
I agree.
Deep systemic problem. Talked about education is something he's talked about a great deal, about, just the resources being given in urban communities. And that continues to be an issue, not improvement there. And that's nationwide, not Boston. So that is fair. The other stuff, just leaving that, because you're right, Sherrod, these are problems that could be multiple places, but let's just focus it on things pertaining to the Celtics in general, right? And these were the other couple of questions that were asked, and it's kind of like, okay, great. Like, what's your relationship? You and Tatum have played your entire careers. How would you describe your relationship today? Now, what do you want to hear him say? I love this guy, man. We've been together, and we're going to stay together until we win a championship.
You think there's some fatigue in that question?
There is, but that's what you want to hear. But an answer like this, I would say the same as it's always been. Two guys who work really hard, who care about winning. We come out, are extremely competitive. People probably still don't think it'll work out, but for the most part, it's been rarefied air. He's asked about a relationship, and he's talking about that they're both good basketball players who work hard. Like, you have to try really hard or really dislike somebody to not be able to say one thing that makes you think that you like that person. It's not that hard.
Sherrod, if I asked you what you think of John, what would you say?
The best.
Yeah. He'd say it's the same as it's been. He's a hard worker. Imagine that. Imagine you ask Sherrod, what do you think of John? He's like, he's a hard worker. Yeah, I think about him about the same as I've always thought about him. And I know a lot of people out there probably think, we're not going to work out together, but I don't know. Who knows?
It's rarefied air.
Who knows? Yeah.
But I think, Bobby, I think it goes back to your earlier comment about just fatigue.
Yeah.
Because he's been asked that question a million times.
Fair.
And I don't know if I would give you just the expected answer that you're looking for.
Yeah, he doesn't want to feed into it. And this is what I'm talking about.
He doesn't want to give it up.
There's a lot about this interview that's very political, political in terms of his answers, guarded, held back. I wish he dove deeper into the Boston stuff. I know
Sherrod, am I grumpy? Tell them.
No, that's the funny part. He's like never grumpy
guy in the world.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. Same as it's always been.
Same, just rarefied air.
Oh man,
that needs to be on the. Oh damn it.
Yeah.
Rarefied
what do you say? I'm trying to think of what Tatum always says when he gets the answer to the question. It's very similar. Like, yeah, we've been here together with each other for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, they love saying that.
Yeah.
They're right.
But there was another one here with the asked about Kanye, and
that was a problem.
Yay.
Yeah.
Which part in particular, Sherrod?
Well, just the whole, Jalen. When he initially commented on that, he didn't really know exactly where Kanye was in his spiel, and when he found out, it was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
we need to cut ties like now, and he did. So that was one where Jalen, he just needed to pause for another second or two, get a little bit of research, understand what you're being asked about, and then respond. But for a guy that young who has been as comfortable tackling subjects that most young guys aren't, uh, he's due for a misstep every now and then. And that was definitely one that he had. And I thought he did a good job of just cleaning that up when he could.
I didn't see that coming. So again, it wasn't nothing here is damning. Some of the stuff is stuff he's talked about before, but as you said, a little bit of fatigue. Some of the stuff is vague. Some of the stuff is not, doesn't want to be cornered or pigeonholed with a particular answer or committing to one thing or another. But then again, I don't really understand why give the interview if you're not willing to say stuff. But again, none of it was like, of course I want to be here. Of course I this, of course I that. You're looking for those assurances as you're going to enter a contract year, and you're not getting them in a forum like this, which is fine.
John,
But you're not getting them like from people close to him, people talking to him. No one has a good sense. What were you gonna say, Sherrod?
John, if there's one thing that Kyrie Irving has taught us all, is those commitments are absolutely worthless.
Yeah.
And I think Jalen, who, as we know, and he's talked about this before, him and Kyrie get along so much better now that they're not teammates. I think one of the understandings that he has learned from Kyrie is you don't show your hand. This is a business, and you need to play your cards close to the vest. And I think that's what Jalen's doing. I think he has a pretty good idea of what he wants to do with his future going forward, but he's not going to let the world know about that just yet because he doesn't have to.
I'd be stunned if he didn't sign a $300 million deal. And I'd be concerned, of course, at that point. I think if he passed up a supermax, you would have to move to trade him.
If he gets a supermax, yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Bobby. Here's the thing that I think we sometimes lose sight of. And I go back to when Bill Russell played for the Celtics. Bill Russell didn't have any issues really with the Celtics. It was the fan base. It was the people in the community that were problematic.
And he mentions the fan base in this too.
And when you listen to Jalen talk, it's very similar.
Yeah.
So I would be more concerned if Jalen were talking about roster issues and decisions made by management and things like that. That would be concerning because those are things that you can't easily address. Those are things that you can, or I should say, from Jalen's perspective, you could easily distance yourself from with no problem, and people would understand why. So I think ultimately, as long as that is in good shape, like the money's right and they're putting the right pieces in place around him, and the basketball side of things with the Celtics is in solid, formidable shape, I don't think he's going to have a major problem staying in Boston.
That All-NBA is so key, though, because they can't reasonably extend him this summer without it because of the 20% rule, and that is something they're looking to change in this next CBA, 20% raises on your deal. Not enough to keep a guy like him around in Boston when he would make more, even going to another team, I think, in free agency. But if he does sneak into that All-NBA team, and I think he should have a good chance at doing that, I am so confused with this process, Sherrod, in terms of how they pick positions and who fits where. To me, he's a forward. I think he fits in cleanly at forward. At guard, he probably has no chance. And for some reason, everyone I'm seeing posting their team seems to think he's a guard because they're leaving him out.
Well, they list him as a guard, which I've never really understood that.
Basketball Reference has him at 60% forward this year.
That's just okay.
It's, you know what? It all goes back to double big. You guys and your double big insistence.
They put him at guard. Yeah.
Turn Jalen into a guard, you friggin' animals. And you guys did this, okay? You guys have to have your two bigs out there because defense, and you made Jalen a guard, and you cost him all NBA, and you drove him out of town. Congratulations. Okay?
They need Brown. And I watching him this last couple of weeks makes me all the more convinced of that. Love the comments in Minnesota you sent, John, about the leadership and him trying to provide that. I think it's the exact same thing we saw in the finals in terms of his sense of urgency, physicality, and compete level. I think he got into a little, scrap confrontation in that game too, and that you don't even see guys doing that on the Celtics as much. Like there is just sort of this forcefulness to his game that no one else on the roster plays with that they need. And especially in the big moments, he seems to come through on both ends and rise to the competition level out there. And sometimes it looks like he's waiting for guys, particularly Tatum, to match that level. And it doesn't always happen in tandem. It does sometimes. We've seen these 30-30 games from those two where it's like fire and ice. We haven't seen many of those lately. And they got to get back to that sync. They got to get back to that urgency that they've talked about in terms of playing off each other and succeeding together. They got to be connected. They got to pass to each other. They got to both, I think, really lock in on doing all the little things we talked about at the beginning of the show. Because, listen, this is the best duo in the league at this point. We used to have that debate. I think it's pretty clear now that they're that number one pair. And you got to try as hard as you can to keep them together for a long time. And I don't like, in terms of the reporting you've talked about, John, like I don't get the sense that there's a strong assuredness he's going to stay, particularly if he gets to free agency. How scary will that be if he gets to free agency?
And there wouldn't be either, even if he said flowery things. So neither one is a certainty. All I'm saying is you see these, we know that nobody knows. And then you read something like this where he's flat out saying there's quite a few things I don't really love about being here. That adds a layer. That's all. The uncertainty is there because one, he has a choice. He has every right to exercise it. He'd be silly not to. So you have to just roll with it. You can't do anything but wait and hope. But that's going to leave you in a brutal position if he just walks, and if you're caught. And
I think that could be the beginning and the end of Tatum here.
You're toast. This is franchise altering, completely reset. If that happens, because you're nowhere without both of them or without moving one of the two for some close to equivalent parts. But if one of the two left you, with Jalen being the first one who has an option for nothing, you're toast. This is
why we talked about
that's why there's concern, not because, we read an interview and I know for certain he's leaving. That's not the point. There's uncertainty, and things like this create more uncertainty and more uneasiness as you're going to head into a contract year with no assurances and really no idea whether or not he wants to be here. Because again, he doesn't have to. He's going to get paid. He can go anywhere he wants. And there's a lot of other things. He doesn't get Supermax here. You've also got the millionaire tax and other reasons where the money you're going to get here isn't necessarily going to be that much better than what you can get anywhere else. He can walk, make his money.
Millionaire tax.
It's in play for some people. It's certainly a consideration when you're stacking dollars, but you don't have that huge, without the All-NBA, you don't have that massive competitive advantage, which means it's really just, where do I want to go next? And that's a little scary if you're a Celtics fan.
What do you think's going to happen, John?
I don't know. I really don't know. If I had to bet, I bet I'd bet more leave than stay, but I don't feel strongly, and neither would surprise me.
How about you, Sherrod?
If I had to go with FanDuel and put some money on this one, I would say he's going to stay.
I think he takes the money.
There's the money part, but I think there's a part of Jalen that enjoys the challenge.
I'm assuming no All-NBA. I'm saying where it's equal.
Oh, okay.
But he can make All-NBA next year, too.
All-NBA, he stays, I think. I think it's more likely because the bag is so much bigger.
Yeah.
Because also agents are telling people, get that deal and then demand out if you don't want to be there anymore. Don't pass that one up.
And that buys you some more time.
He's staying. He's taking that deal if he can get it. I mean, if he didn't get All-NBA. That's what I'm looking at.
That's because then it becomes, I think, more of a coin toss. If
It's
that
almost a coin toss in my mind too.
Yeah.
Back to that All-NBA discussion, though. He is rolling right now. 30 points a game in the 7 coming into this.
I don't know how he could not be an All-NBA at this point, to be honest with you. I mean, if he can just finish out these last 11 or so games playing close to the level he's at now.
That injury was a killer for sure, knocking those couple games.
Yeah, but you know what? If they're able to stabilize themselves and keep that number 2 seed, and he's going to be a big part of that.
It's very close, Sherrod. We did this before. We did the math, and you look at it. There's almost 11 or 12 automatics before you even start to think of Jalen, and he's in a class with a lot of other people that are close. So it is not. You can make a case for him over any of the other remaining people, but it's not a slam dunk. If you do click
it's hard
down the
to
list,
fit him in as a guard.
If you do click down the list, you're 10 and 11 deep, easy. You're 11 deep without blinking, if not 12, and you're looking at maybe 3 spots there on that third team as a guard or a forward. That's really tricky. And again, other really good players there too. I still think he absolutely can, and I think he has as good or better a chance than a lot, but it's not a lock. It's not a lock.
Yeah.
I don't see room for him at guard. Forward, though, should be wide open for him. Give me him over Kawhi. Give me him over Butler. Give me him over even Randall, I think. That one's close, though, because Randall really has carried heavy weight for the Knicks.
Yep. All right. Anyway, this is a thing that's there. It's not going anywhere. But it's something that's going to kind of be on Celtics fans' minds as things go on. So yes, absolutely, root for Jaylen Brown to make All NBA. That makes all of your problems and all of your worries go away. And that's probably best for everyone here. Again, let everybody know here one more time about our terrific and exclusive wagering partner, FanDuel. If you're interested in getting in on some of the legal sports betting action that you can take part in now in Massachusetts, please go ahead and sign up at fanduel.com/Boston. Take advantage of that terrific deal, $200 in bonus bets when you make your first $5 wager. Really good opportunity.
I won one today.
Look at it, boy, Bobby.
Miami over Drake. When Miami was down, I jumped in on them.
Couple quick quotes. One of the same, Mazzulla urged for the Celtics to get back to the way they were playing. This is from Marcus Smart. Just constantly holding us accountable, doing all the little things, not getting bored with the little things. And you guys kept mentioning little things, by the way. Constantly making every play and making the right play. That's from Marcus. And then Al followed up. Mazzulla challenged us to be better as a group, be more focused, really get back to who we are. The group has, or we've responded, Al said. So we're talking about Joe needing to get a little bit tough and stop telling people that they played well and just shots didn't fall on X, Y, and Z. You actually saw it a little bit in his post-game comments recently, him starting to say, I am questioning effort and focus and things like that. So good on him for, kind of putting on the mean face a little bit and getting into those guys, because sometimes they do need the little kick in the butt and need to hear it. So I'm glad to hear that both Joe did it and both that they're actually praising that he did it and responding to it rather than getting all, kind of upset about it. And, again, they said they wanted to be coached hard last year. So you got a coach that coached them hard. You have to believe that they still want it, right?
Yeah. And we don't see it as much just because they're just a different kind of team under Joe than they were under Ime. But that desire to have a coach that can push those buttons and, maybe more important, push them, they need that. They know that. By the end of the day, they know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see the way they play. I know we worry about the threes. I worry about the threes. But they have an analytical model and obviously a personnel base that gives them a real leg up on most teams. And that's why they're building these double-digit leads every night, paying attention to the margins that Joe wants them to pay attention to. And when they're not turning the ball over as much, or at least they're winning that battle, when they're drawing the free throws, and when they're, shooting at the level they can, they're going to beat most teams on those nights. So that's why the margins got really important. I think it was that Houston game, John, where he said the rebounding pissed him off.
Yeah,
I think that was the real bad night on the boards.
Everything began with the Brooklyn Tatum birthday game. I think
Yeah.
that's where Joe started to get annoyed with these guys.
Yeah, because of their approach and their focus to those details.
And the fact, you could tell he was like.
Well, look at tonight. You were gone for a second when we mentioned it, John. The offensive rebounding tonight, just sensational.
Yeah.
And that shows more than anything the effort they played with tonight.
Yeah, that one stretch where they grabbed like 6 in a row. I think it ended up with a Blake bucket or something. Yeah, that was great. Anyway, good stuff, guys. Thanks for hanging out. It was fun. Late into the night. Happy birthday to my girls, Rose and Zoe, turning 5. They've turned 5. The clock has struck midnight. Yep.
Oh boy.
So happy birthday, girls!
Fun times.
Happy birthday to my pal Josh Krinsman, who
my birthday's coming up in a couple weeks.
It was we were out hanging out for a little bit tonight. Prior to the game tipping off. Happy birthday, Josh, as well.
It's St. Patrick's Day.
His birthday's on St. Patrick's Day. Yeah.
Wow. Happy birthday to Danny Ainge.
On St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
I think Blake's birthday was a day or two.
Terry Rozier as well.
Really?
Yeah, T Rose. Yeah.
We can. Are you going to Utah? You can visit. You can. Wish
I am.
Wish Danny a happy birthday in person.
I am.
Are you lined up to talk to him?
No, but I'm going to find a way.
That is going to be the big reunion, huh? I can't wait to see all those stories.
I love Danny.
Yeah,
Danny.
Yeah, that's good stuff. All right, guys. Again, thank you guys for hanging out, watching late into the evening. Back tomorrow night with another show. Celtics are in Utah taking on the Jazz. I think the majority of us will be here, potentially Joe Sway as well. So we'll see you guys.